Okay, so welcome back everyone. So today I'll be talking about some best practices, some stuff to avoid, and let's talk a little bit about best practices. So usually what I'd like to do is that if I'm working with a team, that each team would have their own scene, their own special scene where they're working there, they're trying out their stuff, and nobody opens the scene. So for example, if I'm in a team with Justina, Mustafa and Minna, then the four of us, each one will have their own scene where they are playing around with it and creating their features. And whatever feature they create, they turn it into a prefab. And then we have a folder called prefabs where we have all of these objects. And all of these objects should work out of the box. So this means that each object has its own components, has everything, and when you drag it and drop it into any scene, it works directly, completely out of the box without the need of having any sort of external references or anything. All right, so this is the first thing. So A, each user works on their own scene. They create their own feature. They do their best to have their feature as a prefab, and this prefab other partners or teammates can use. And B, always create prefabs from your features. Make sure that this feature will be out of the box. This object is going to work in any scene just as it's dragged into it. Okay, so that is the very first step. Now, some issues that you might fall into include some conflicts that can arise. That's number one. Number two, some stuff that just Unity or Git ignores in a way. So one of them, the very first one, and the most common one, is committing empty folder metas. So what is that? So let's say you created an empty folder in Unity, you wanted to add something, and you forgot. You forgot to add anything into this folder, so this folder is empty. Now what's gonna happen is that, as we mentioned earlier in the very first video, is that Unity generates a unique ID for any asset or any file that is created. So what happened now, if we go to the project folder, in assets, oops, yeah, we'll find empty folder. So this is the folder we just created, and we'll find an empty folder .meta file. So as we mentioned, each asset has its own meta file. Now what Git is going to see, I use an extension called Git extension. It's very cool for Git users, and it's very important for me because I can see what are the things that I have changed in details, and it helps me take decisions on which should go in which commit. So when I open the commit, I see that the only change I did, or the only change that Git is recognizing, is just the meta file, not the empty directory. So Git will not add the empty directory, but it will add the meta file. If you stage this and commit it, the issue that it's going to cause is that your partners, once they pull their project, Git will think that they deleted that folder because the folder doesn't exist, it just has its meta file. So Unity, thinking that you deleted the folder, would delete the meta file as well, and you will go into this endless loop of ghost meta files. So always make sure, this is very important, always make sure that you don't have any empty folder in your project, or else this issue will be caused. Whenever you're committing, whenever you're doing any change, go walk through your changes. Go through your changes, make sure that these changes are yours, these are the changes you did. If it is not a change you did, then it's simply right click, reset file to directory, or just reset this file and remove it from your changed directory. This is again very important. I would say commit frequently, so with every change of a feature, do a commit for it. It doesn't have to be big changes, it could be a small change for a script, and make sure that each commit is dedicated for one change. as much as possible. So just one change that does one specific thing. So now the folder is gone in Unity. And actually, let's see how this works if we delete an actual file. So this file, this image of person's leg, is an asset, and of course it has its meta file. Now if we go to Git extensions, we can see that there are two changes that happen, and these changes are a deletion of the oh, I just realized you guys aren't seeing anything. Second, let's do this again. Yeah, all right. So yeah, we'll do this again. Okay, so in here, after deleting that file, we have two changes. So we have the change that is the actual file itself and its meta file. Let's create our empty file again. So let's go to Unity and create our empty file again. And go to Git extensions, see our commits. And you're going to see what we've been mentioning in a bit is that you have just the meta file, not the other change. Now this is there regardless if you're, of course, you're using any sort of extensions or GUI. This is something that is an issue. So Unity doesn't do well. Unity and Git do not do well with empty directories or empty folders. All right, so now that this is set, let's go to commenting your change. So this change is a comment I'd like to add. So I do this, and I'd say, for example, refactor directory, remove image that is no longer required, and I do a comment. Okay, so ABC things we don't do. We don't force push, so never force push, and kind of take it in certain steps. So the first thing you would do is commit your change. Second thing you do is you would pull. You can pull merge. I usually pull rebase. So any change I do, I usually pull rebase that change. And if there aren't any changes, once there aren't any changes, I would push to my directory, to my remote repository. And now all my teammates have that change that I've just done. Perfect. Okay. So this was a quick brief regarding Git with Unity. I'd recommend that you guys would follow a certain convention in terms of creating commits. I can see that there is one bad commit right here. Please avoid that. This is bad practice, but most of the time try to always make it descriptive, explain as much as you can. What does your commit do? What are the changes you have done? This is a project that I'm only in, and I do that. I try to follow a convention with myself. So yeah, so that's about it. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. Thank you.